You are about to engage in another exciting episode of Pondercast. This is a completely independent podcast that is looking for support through Patreon. If you like what you hear, please consider making a small monthly donation to patreon.com/Pondercast. It was a dark and stormy night in Toronto in January, and what you are about to hear on this episode of Pondercast is a live interview and performance with Dan Mangan. It was the day that the Juno nominations came out. That's Canada's version of the Grammys, and he was nominated for Best Adult Alternative Album. The Junos happened, and he didn't win, but that doesn't matter. His new album, called More or Less, is amazing, and Dan is a gifted songwriter and a riveting performer, and you're going to hear a couple of tracks from his album, as well as my interview, surrounded by about 60 super fans at an acoustic live event in downtown Toronto. So let's go. Let's Pondercast. This is going to be fun because it's going to be Dan Mangan playing live, and I'm going to ask some questions first. And
this is Laurie Brown, everybody, if you don't know who this is.
Thank you, Dan. I'm Laurie Brown. I have a podcast.
Iconic CBC personality with a new podcast.
Oh, you're doing it for me. I'm getting the
I'm
intro to the
you.
intro.
That's how this works. Yeah.
So to set the picture for people who are listening to Pondercast, we are out here at 6 p.m. on the coldest night of the year in Toronto. And we're at the Tiny Record Shop on Queen Street East. Thanks to Trevor and the gang here for putting this together. And we're going to have a couple of questions before you get to play.
Yeah.
First of all, congratulations on your Juno nomination for Best Adult Alternative Album, More or Less.
Finally grew up.
Which always is such a weird category, adult alternative, because it makes me think Dan Mangan is the adult alternative.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Do you feel like an alternative to an adult?
Alternate way you can be an adult, I think that's it. What's the other adult category?
It's just adult
adult contemporary. That's the Jan Ardens, you know. I'll get there one day. Yeah, it's funny. It's like if Pearl Jam grew up, you know. Yeah. I always think anytime I hear the term alternative, I think it's 1992, and it's like the kids are listening to alternative music, you know. Yeah. But however you squish them all together, it's a steep category, lots of competition, and I'm just so darn pleased to be nominated, you know?
Yeah. Okay, well, labels aside, if you have to explain to someone sitting on a plane next to you, you make music, what kind of music do you make?
You can always suss them out, you know? You can always be like, okay, is this so if what I do can be categorized as folk or singer-songwriter music, even that might not mean something to someone. So you say, you know, you start with like have you heard of like Bon Iver? And they'll go like, nope. Have you heard of Mumford & Sons? Nope. Have you heard of Willie Nelson? Yep. Kind of like that. So it's like whatever, you know, it's like how you just keep expanding the circle until they'll be like, well, there's an acoustic guitar involved, and then I say a lot of words, and sometimes I yell, and they'll be like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Well, I don't even know how to describe your music, because when I first started listening and playing you on the Signal, I would say, listen to all this orchestration that's going on. Listen to all these surprising sounds that I'm hearing in this music. And then the next record would come along and I'm saying, whoa, he's really going out on an experimental...
Really pissing off his bass, you know?
It's an experimental binge happening here, and I love these sounds. And then I listen to the new album, and I think it's almost like Well, the title is very fitting, you know, more or less. I keep turning it around in my head and thinking it's called Less is More because it feels deconstructed or stripped down. How do you describe the difference in this record?
I think that, you know, if Nice, Nice, Very Nice was sort of like a, you know, more straightforward songwriter album, and then Oh Fortune was sort of me saying, oh, no, but I want to try a bunch of other stuff and make it big and grand. So then you get the orchestra involved. And then Club Meds was sort of saying, no, that's not what I do either. What I do is, you know, I have surrounded by all these amazing musicians, and we're going to do a whole bunch of polyrhythmic, you know, complicated stuff. And through the middle of it, I'm going to infuse all of the political meanderings that I always tried to say but couldn't figure out before. And then I feel like with that record, I figured out how to put my more like socially critical voice into songwriting without feeling like I was being overly soapboxy or, you know, didactic or anyways. And then this new record sort of feels like a little bit of all of those records mashed together. And going into it, I didn't really have a vision of how minimal or not minimal I wanted it to be. But the thing that I did want it to be was more tender. And I think that part of that is me being a dad, and part of that is sort of just feeling like I've spent too many nights, late night on Twitter, feeling like there's just too much venom in the world and too much spite and division. And so if I was to offer anything into the world at this moment, I just wanted it to feel like inviting and warm.
A linchpin that holds all your eyes to your lids, all your outsides to your ins is wavering, and the truth is you don't know where to begin. All those walls caving in is beautiful. Till the morning comes, everything is now. What isn't broke, it'll break somehow. Till the morning comes, till the morning comes. And in the broken hours, everything is now. Waking up somewhere with someone somehow. In the broken hours, in the broken hours. Every morning's a resurrection, shaking off all dead. One more go ahead. So you're giving in, and the letting go is letting you in. You can feel the blood in your skin, like the first time. And your lungs fill as your legs break, and you hold still, 'cause you're okay. It's a steep hill and a long way down. Till the morning comes, everything is now. What isn't broke, it'll break somehow. Till the morning comes, till the morning comes. And in the broken hours, everything is now. Waking up somewhere with someone somehow. In the broken hours, in the broken hours. Every morning's a resurrection, shaking off all dead. One more go ahead and something you get broken. Hold on, sudden
this amount of change that's happened from album to album, and tell me about the sort of personal drive you have to keep pushing forward and what pushing forward means for you.
I think I just get like anxious with whatever I'm doing and I want to do something different. I think that's it. I feel like there's a tendency when you're making records, let's say you have an idea and you're reaching for, you know, K. And through the process, you feel like you get to J, not quite K. And part of you feels like, okay, so maybe I'll try it again, and maybe this time we'll get to K. And the tricky thing about that is that you can spend your whole career trying to nail this one thing that you think that you do and not nailing it. And the better thing is to say, well, whether we aimed for K or not, J is what it is. So let's aim for like 8 or 9 over in this direction and try something totally different and let that live as it is, which is hard. It's hard to sort of like let go of something and just be like when they say records are done when they run out of money, you know, and
Or when the shrink wrap's on them.
yeah, that's right. And you can't change it anymore. But at that point, it doesn't belong to me anymore. I mean, legally it does, but it's sort of, there's a really important letting go. You kind of like divorce yourself from that work and you say, this belongs to the world now. And it is what it is. And I love all of my records. I love parts of them. And then there's other parts of those records that make me cringe. And I go, I would never do it that way now. But every step is part of the process. I think a lot about a body of work too. I think of like if you listen to Tom Waits or Neil Young or Joni Mitchell or even like a Madonna, like a total pop icon, and you go, okay, well my favorite Madonna era is the 80s, or my favorite Neil Young era is the 90s, or I love the idea that if a body of work maintains to change and grow, that there can be eras in it, and that over a span of time, those songs are kind of like your children of that era. And so, I mean, I think that I know this from after the show, that there are people that are like, oh, your first record's my favorite one, and, I think you should do more like that. And then someone else will come up and they'll be like, oh, Club Meds, that record changed my life, and I want you to do more Chaos. And the truth is that, like, I don't know what people like, and I don't know what people are going to like. That's the other thing, is like you're in the studio, and if you're trying to reverse engineer something in the way that you think other people will like it, you might miss and also feel like crap. And you don't want to do that. So it's like, no matter what, you might miss. So you might as well feel good yourself about it. And if you feel like you've exercised your sort of internal creative, you've scratched that itch, whether it works or not, that's mostly luck and zeitgeist, and you just hope for the best. But at least you know that you've kind of done your best.
There's a couple songs on this record that really blew my mind, and "Fool for Waiting" is one of them. It's like it feels to me like a song that you're singing that has got so much emotion in it, and is such a big song that it would feel like, you imagine like someone standing on stage and knowing they're about to sing Hallelujah by Leonard Cohen, and where they got to get to in that song and how far they have to go emotionally in that song. Fool for Waiting feels like a very big song, and it's like you sort of stepping forward and planting your feet and say, okay, I'm fucking doing this, and here I go.
Yeah. Well, and also with that song, it was funny because anytime I played it and I got too big, it got into a territory I was like, this doesn't feel like me. And so the recording is like there's like an implied intensity. There's an implied like bigness to it, but I'm singing quite calm, like I'm singing quite quietly throughout the whole thing. And that's because I had to ride this line where I was giving it the reverence that it needed and deserved, but at the same time, I wasn't trying to be Tony Braxton or John, you know what I mean? Like I think of all of my songs, that one probably has the greatest chance of sort of entering the sort of like American canon of music, and that is the most universal. I think that anyone can sing that song. Whereas a lot of my songs, like a song like Mouthpiece or something, that feels like me. and I don't know anyone else who sings songs just like that. But Fool for Waiting is a more universal song. That's like a songwriter song.
It's such a song about love that never uses the word love. Is
Yeah,
that
that's true.
intention? Is that intentional?
I don't know if I actually thought about it, but that's an interesting point now that you put it. Because I think that's like, if you love someone, that's the chorus line. If you try to be with me, I'll try to get by. We're all just trying to get by, and I think that often the thing that stops us from loving other people is feeling conflicted about whether or not we're worthy of their love. So it's the whole class. I mean, it's such a cliche, right? Like, how can you love someone else if you don't love yourself? But that's kind of at the heart of it. And I think that there's like a fairy tale Hollywood love, and then there's like the real love, which is way more broken and boring, And I think that what the song is getting into is sort of that, like, that boring love, that's the goal.
Yeah.
The goal isn't the Hollywood love. The Hollywood love comes or it doesn't, and it lasts for a couple of years or whatever. But the boring, real love is way more meaningful in the long run, and it's like, that's about friendship. That's like about like actually partnering with someone.
Is it also maybe more a song about devotion than anything else?
I don't know. Devotion. Sure. Yeah.
I can't tell you what it means. When you are here, I am at ease. I don't blame you when you're gone for the sadness in my song. And weight is mine alone, and shadow is my own. The coast is never clear. I wait for morning, though. You will arrive so we can watch that shadow disappear. If you try to be with me, I will try to get by. Some say I'm a fool for waiting. They don't know this fool doesn't mind. They tell me give it up, but I won't ever give it up. Because when the night does fade, I'm alive in the strangest way. Those first few cracks of dawn are a taste of what's to come. And yes, I am in heart about nothing at all. I get lost in fear. No thief or act of God can take this grin I've got. I know you will be here, and if you try to be with me, I will try to get by. Some say I'm a fool for waiting. They don't know this fool doesn't mind. They tell me give it up, but I won't ever give it up. Oh, and they tell me, so what, she's in your head, she's gonna leave again. What's gonna happen then? She's just enabling, and there is truth to that, but I ain't holding back. If you try be with me, and I will try to get by. Some say I'm a fool for waiting. They don't know this fool doesn't mind. And if you try to be with me, I will try to get by. Some say I'm a fool for waiting. They don't know this fool doesn't mind. won't ever give it up.
And the other one that I loved is about, it's a way to make a real political song without dividing the audience listening to it, and that is Just Fear. And because you found a really special spot in making a political song that doesn't divide people, and it doesn't say, this is right and that is wrong. How do you find that spot?
Intricately. That song went through pardon me, probably 5 or 6 iterations. The chorus was totally different at one point, different words. And what I stumbled on was, the line, there's a line that said, well, it's just fear messing with us. And at first that was like, when every road feels traveled, it's just fear messing with ya, kind of like with the universal you. And then I was like, well, it should be like, well, it's just fear messing with me. And what I stumbled on was the more connective, it's just fear messing with us. Because, if I'm afraid that the world is getting more divisive, and let's say that there are other people in the world that are afraid that it's becoming not homogenous enough, people who want to put up a wall, it's fear on both sides. It's not just that one side is afraid and the other one isn't. It's fear messing with all of us. And so that's kind of the message of the song, is that it's like, it's not just like fear's messing with the left or the right. Fear's messing with everyone. And if everyone can conquer that fear, then all of those other labels, left and right or whatever, it doesn't matter anymore. Because it's when you get over the fear of things you don't understand is when you can actually extend the olive branch, when you can, act in kindness, calmly. But you have to, that requires a lot of like emotional well-being and intelligence, and you can't feel that way if you're afraid.
When every road feels traveled, we get lost in struggle, and the whole world's unraveling. Well, it's just fear messing with us. So is this a big one? Do we all go down with the ship? Have we lost the plot completely this time? 'Cause I feel the bold in the newsprint. And is this the end time? We got people praying for the rapture, convinced in the sanctity of disaster. What are we really after? When every road feels traveled, we get lost in struggle, and the whole world's unraveling. Well, it's just fear messing with us. It's just fear messing with our heads. So are we enticed to the car crash? Do we enjoy the whiplash? Do we assume that this will pass, and it will pass, but first will we save the worst for last? So if it's the end time, trust that these shivers will ease up on my spine. Allow myself the privilege of a calm mind. now and then. I just wanna feel the sunshine. Every road feels travel, and we get lost in struggle. When the whole world's unraveling, well, it's just fear messing with us. Yeah, it's just fear messing with our heads. Oh, it's just fear messing with us. Oh, it's just fear messing with our heads.
Before we let you loose here on this lovely audience of Dan Manganolians. Dan?
I don't know.
Is that it? This is what it's all about. You know, for you, this is what you do. You perform in front of people, and that overused word, but there's no other word for it, I don't think, which is connection with people. Does it still take you by surprise how this happens, and when a live situation just all of a sudden becomes something very important to everybody in a room?
Well, I think, like the whole purpose of why, people gather is to feel connected to something bigger than all of us. I mean, that's the goal of every gig, right? Is to get to that sort of like, almost like a secular religious situation, right? Where it's like we all feel like we're humbled and we're part of something that's bigger than all of us. I think that the connection is truly like the only thing that we want. And I think even love is just one way to get to the feeling of connection. We all just want to feel understood. We all experience a certain amount of like existential dread or existential loneliness. And when somebody lobs up a song, Yesterday or blowing, any kind of song, and you hear the words and you go, oh my God, that's exactly how I feel, then both sides of the equation are sort of like cosmically less alone. And so you get just like a hit of like the drug of connection. And then you can kind of go about your life for another few months and feed off of that. I mean, then you need to feel it again. So, that's why I do this, is because if I didn't have songs to articulate my thoughts and exercise them from my brain, I just would never sleep. And so it's amazing. It's like writing a letter. If you're really angry with someone, you write them a letter. It doesn't even matter if you send it. Maybe don't send it, but just writing down your thoughts. Because the truth is, like, it's like that classic thing, like hating someone else is like drinking poison and hoping that they die. It's like as soon as you exercise that part of your brain, that's you're laying in bed and you're like, oh, but if you just this, and it's like all you do is write it down, and then it's out of you, and then it's gone, and then whether or not they hear it doesn't even matter, because your psyche is like, more prepared to take on the day.
History repeats when I got a troubled mind, and it won't let up, what the hell is wrong with everybody right now? Everywhere I look, it's the same sound. Haunted by the melody, haunted by the melody. Sometimes it gets ahead of me, head of my mind, it gets ahead of me, haunted by the melody, haunted by the melody. Sometimes it gets ahead of me, head of my mind, it gets ahead of me.
That was Dan Mangan live at the Tiny Record Shop on Queen Street East in Toronto. And you also heard cuts from his latest album, More or Less. I think Dan Mangan is an amazing songwriter, and I'm always curious to know what he has to say and what he wants to write about, because he seems to nail the zeitgeist moment in his songs. He taps into our collective mood, and his songs make us feel better. I think that's because he acknowledges that strange, weird feeling that it turns out we're all having. His songwriting seems to be more about us than it is about him. So thanks for listening. And are you ready to become a supporter of Pondercast? Head to patreon.com/Pondercast. Or if you want to wade in more slowly and try on a t-shirt, go to pondercast.ca. I'm Laurie Brown. Thanks for listening.